My daughter hugged me outside the hospital and said, "You'll be fine, Dad." Then she climbed into a rideshare with my son and left for their Caribbean cruise 6 hours before my heart surgery. They had used $9,200 of my money to pay for the trip. I did not beg them to stay. I only called my attorney, because by the time their ship left port, one document would no longer carry Melissa's name. Before I tell you what changed while they were at sea, comment below and tell me where you're watching from. And like and subscribe if someone in your own family has ever expected your support while refusing to show up when you needed them. My name was Franklin Webb. I was 69 years old and had spent 38 years investigating commercial insurance claims in Knoxville, Tennessee. That work taught me to separate sympathy from evidence and promises from signed facts. I kept every receipt, reviewed every contract twice, and never accused anyone without proof. Melissa and Aaron thought my quiet nature meant I would accept whatever they decided. They had forgotten how carefully I watched what people did when money was involved. The surgery was scheduled for Thursday, February 6th. My cardiologist had found a valve problem during a routine exam in December. I was not in immediate danger, but he was clear. "You should not delay this," he said. "You will need someone to drive you home and stay for the first 48 hours. I called Melissa first. She was my oldest child and the person listed as emergency. "Contact on my hospital forms." "Of course," she said. "We'll work it out." 3 days later, Aaron came to my house carrying a folder from his restaurant. He owned a place called Copper and Ash near downtown Knoxville. The food was good. The numbers were not. He pushed a spreadsheet across the table. "I need 20,000 to get through February. You still owe me 34,000. "This is different. It is another loan. If I miss payroll, I lose the staff." His restaurant had brought in $71,000 in December and still lost nearly $12,000. He had also paid himself a $6,500 owner draw. "You took $6,500 out last month." I said, "I have a mortgage. So do your employees." His mouth tightened. "Are you going to help me or lecture me? I'm going to understand what I'm paying for." I gave him $8,000, not 20. I wrote short-term business loan on the memo line and made him sign a March 15th repayment date. Before leaving, he said, "Melissa told me about the surgery. We'll figure it out." That was the second promise. The first week of January, Melissa came over with David. They brought takeout and a cruise brochure. 7 nights in the Caribbean, balcony cabins, stops in Nassau, St. Thomas, and San Juan. "We found a last-minute deal," Melissa said. "When?" "February 5th through the 12th. I looked at her. "My surgery is February 6th. Her smile faded. "I know. You said you would work it out." "The deposit was already non-refundable." "How much?" $4,600 per cabin. They had booked 2 cabins. One for Melissa and David, one for Aaron. Then Melissa folded her hands. "We were going to ask if you could help with the final payment. You want me to pay for a cruise that takes all of you away during my surgery?" "It is not like that." "What is it like?" David leaned back. "We used the family travel account." There was no family travel account. It was an account I had opened for occasional trips with my grandchildren. Melissa had online access because she booked the hotels. "How much did you take?" $9,200. That account was not for this. We were going to replace it. "When?" "After Aaron's restaurant improves." Aaron already owed me money. Now his future success was supposed to repay their vacation too. Melissa reached across the table. "Dad, you'll be in the hospital for at least 2 nights. By the time you come home, we'll be halfway through the trip. The doctor said I may leave after 1 night, then hire a nurse. A nurse for 2 days costs nearly $1,400. You can afford it." The words came out casually. That made them worse. "I can afford many things," I said. "That does not make them your decision." Melissa's face hardened. "You always make money a test of love." "No, you keep asking money to do the work love should do." David stood. "This conversation is getting emotional." I'm asking whether my children will be present for heart surgery." Melissa looked at the floor. "We cannot cancel now." "You can." "We would lose the money." "My money." She closed her eyes. "Dad, please do not do this." I did not schedule the cruise. They left early. The next morning, Aaron called. "Melissa said you made her cry." I asked her to stay. We all need a break, and I need someone to take me home from the hospital. The hospital has services. The hospital does not send someone home to sleep in my guest room. He exhaled. You're acting like we want something bad to happen. I'm acting like you chose a vacation over being present. That is unfair. It is exact. He ended the call on February 4th. The hospital coordinator phoned to confirm my discharge plan. I gave her the name of a private nursing service. The cost was $1,280 for 48 hours. That afternoon, Melissa texted me their flight details. They were leaving Knoxville at 5:20 the next morning. Her final message said, "You'll be fine. Dad, we'll call from Miami." I stared at the screen. Then another message appeared from Aaron. "When we get back, I need you to look at one document for the restaurant loan." Even then, they still needed something from me. The document arrived by email the night before my surgery. Aaron had sent it at 10:17 with the subject line, "Quick signature needed." I opened it expecting another restaurant invoice. Instead, I found a loan package from Tennessee Valley Commercial Bank. The amount was $126,000. The borrower was Copper and Ash Holdings. The stated purpose was debt consolidation, vendor payments, and operating capital. The collateral was my lake cabin near Tellico Village. I read that line twice. The cabin did not belong to Aaron. It belonged to the Webb Family Trust. Melissa was named as co-trustee, but the trust required both of us to approve any sale, mortgage, or pledge of real estate. She could not use it alone. The next page included a trustee authorization. Melissa had already signed. Under my signature line, Aaron had added a yellow electronic marker that said, "Sign here." I kept reading. The bank valued the cabin at $315,000. Aaron's restaurant debts included $48,000 owed to food suppliers, $39,500 on high-interest business cards, and a $22,000 tax payment plan. Then I reached the repayment section. The loan required monthly payments of $180. Copper and Ash had not produced that much free cash in any month during the previous year. If Aaron defaulted, the bank could take the cabin. Attached to the package was an email chain between Aaron and Melissa. Aaron had written, "Dad will sign after surgery. He won't want stress while recovering." Melissa replied, "Bring it to him before discharge. I'm already on the trust, so it should be simple." Then David added, "Once the restaurant stabilizes, no one loses anything. No one." They were gambling with property my wife and I had bought 26 years earlier, the place where we had spent our last summer together before she died. They had planned to place the papers in front of me while I was medicated and weak. At the bottom of the email chain, Aaron had written one more line. "The bank needs it by February 10th, so don't let Dad overthink it." I did not feel angry. I felt certain. I downloaded every attachment, saved the full email chain, and printed 2 copies. Then I opened the trust agreement and read the amendment section. As the surviving creator of the revocable trust, I still held the power to change its terms, remove a co-trustee, and protect trust property from unauthorized pledges. At 10:46, I called Helen Price. She answered on the 4th ring. "Franklin, you should be resting. I found the document Aaron once signed." "What is it?" "A loan secured by my cabin. Melissa already signed as trustee." Helen went quiet. "Do not sign anything," she said. "I had no intention of it. Bring me the trust and the loan. Package tomorrow morning. My surgery is tomorrow. Then I will come to the hospital before they take you in." I looked at the cruise itinerary Melissa had left on my counter. Their flight departed at 5:20. Helen would arrive at 6:45. For the first time that week, someone had arranged their schedule around what I needed. Helen Price arrived at Fort Sanders Regional Medical Center at 6:41 the next morning. She wore a dark coat, carried a leather document case, and did not ask why my children were absent. She had already read the loan package I emailed before midnight. We sat in a small consultation room beside the surgical intake area. My private nurse, Carla, waited outside. Helen placed the Webb family trust on the table. Before we do anything, she said, I need to know whether you are clear-headed, acting voluntarily, and free from pressure. I have not been given medication yet. Do you understand that changing the trust may affect what Melissa and Aaron inherit? Yes. Is that your intention? My intention is to stop them from using my property and reward the people they were willing to put at risk. Helen studied me for a moment. Then tell me exactly what outcome you want. I had thought about that through most of the night. I want Melissa removed as co-trustee immediately. I want the cabin protected from any loan, mortgage, or sale unless I personally approve it while I'm alive. And after my death, I do not want either child receiving a large amount outright. What should happen instead? My grandchildren should be protected. Melissa had a daughter, Sophie, who was 13. Aaron had 2 boys, Lucas and Evan, ages 9 and 6. I did not want the children punished for their parents' choices. Helen opened her laptop. The trust was revocable. I was the surviving grantor and primary trustee. Under its existing terms, Melissa became co-trustee only to help if I became temporarily unable to manage paperwork. She had treated that backup role as ownership. Helen explained the cleanest solution. One amendment can do all of this, she said. It can remove Melissa, name an independent successor trustee, restrict the cabin, and revise the distributions. Who should replace her? I recommend a professional trust company, not another family member. That costs money. It does. But professional fees are cheaper than family members treating trust assets like personal credit. I nodded. She drafted the amendment in 5 sections. The first removed Melissa Carter as co-trustee and cancelled every authority she held under the trust. It required her to return all trust records, keys, passwords, and copies of property documents. The second named volunteer fiduciary services as successor trustee if I died or became legally incapacitated. No child, spouse of a child, or business owned by them could serve. The third dealt with the cabin. It stated that the Tellico Village property could not be pledged, mortgaged, guaranteed, or used as collateral for any debt belonging to a beneficiary or a beneficiary's business. While I was alive and competent, only my notarized signature could authorize a transfer. Helen read that sentence aloud. Even if someone presents a power of attorney, the lender must contact you directly and receive separate written confirmation. Good. The 4th section changed the inheritance. Under the old trust, Melissa and Aaron would each receive 40% of the remaining estate outright. The final 20% was divided among the grandchildren. I changed that. Melissa and Aaron would each receive 10%, but only after every documented debt they owed me or the trust had been deducted. The remaining 80% would be divided among 3 protected trusts for Sophie, Lucas, and Evan. The grandchildren's money could pay for education, medical needs, a first home, or business training. They would not receive unrestricted access until age 30. Their parents could not borrow from it, pledge it, or serve as trustee. Helen looked up from the screen. This is a major reduction for your children. They made a major assumption about what already belonged to them. Do you want to disinherit them entirely? No. I want the document to reflect both truth and restraint. That mattered to me. I was not changing the trust because they took a vacation. People were allowed to choose poorly. I was changing it because they took my money for that vacation, left me alone for surgery, and planned to secure Aaron's debt with my cabin while I was recovering. The 5th section required a complete accounting. Melissa had 30 days to report every trust transaction she had made, attempted or discussed with a lender. Failure to provide the accounting would suspend her remaining inheritance until the successor trustee completed an investigation. Helen printed the amendment at 7:18. Then she called in a hospital notary and 2 staff witnesses who were not involved in my medical care. Before I signed, the notary asked me to state my name, the date, my location, and the purpose of the document. My name is Franklin Webb, I said. It is Thursday, February 6th. I am at Fort Sanders Regional Medical Center. I am amending my revocable trust before surgery. Are you signing willingly? Yes. Has anyone threatened or pressured you? No. I signed at 7:31. The witnesses signed. Next. The notary stamped the final page. One document. 8 pages. Melissa's authority was gone. Helen scanned the signed amendment and sent certified copies to Volunteer Fiduciary Services, the Trust Bank, and the title company that held the cabin records. Then she called Tennessee Valley Commercial Bank. The commercial loan officer, Brian Kell, joined us by phone at 7:48. Helen identified herself and gave the loan reference number. The cabin offered as collateral is held in the Webb Family Trust, she said. The person who signed your trustee authorization no longer has authority, and she never held authority to pledge the property without Franklin Webb's approval. Brian asked to speak with me. Mr. Webb, did you authorize the cabin as collateral? No. Did you ask Melissa Carter or Aaron Webb to submit this application? No. Do you intend to sign the trustee authorization? No. The word felt clean. Brian placed the loan on immediate hold. Helen emailed the trust amendment, the original trust section requiring joint approval, and my written statement refusing the pledge. At 8:04, Brian confirmed that the bank would not release funds or record any lien without completing a legal review. He also told us something Aaron had not included in his message. The bank meeting on February 14th, 2 days after their return, was not only for the loan closing. Aaron had invited his restaurant landlord and 2 major suppliers. He planned to announce that the cabin-backed financing had been approved and promised immediate payment. He had arranged a public rescue using property he did not own. Helen asked, "Will you notify him now? Our legal department will contact him after completing its review," Brian said. For now, the February 14th meeting remains on the calendar. After the call, Helen prepared one more letter. It informed Melissa that she had been removed as co-trustee and ordered her not to represent the trust, access its accounts, or contact lenders on its behalf. A separate copy went to Aaron, stating that the cabin was unavailable as collateral and that no trust asset would guarantee. Copper and Ash. Helen scheduled both letters for delivery after my surgery began. "You could call them first," she said. "They did not call before signing my property into a loan." At 8:20, a nurse came to take me toward the operating room. My phone buzzed. Melissa had sent a photograph from Miami International Airport. She, David, and Aaron were holding drinks beside the departure board. Her message said, "Wish you were here. Don't worry about anything." I showed it to Helen. She read it once, then handed the phone back. "Do you want to respond?" "No." I turned the phone off. At 8:27, I was wheeled down the hall. At 9:03, while I was under anesthesia, the bank placed Aaron's loan file under formal compliance review. At 9:11, the trust company accepted its appointment as successor trustee. At 9:18, certified notices reached Melissa's email and Aaron's business account. By the time the cruise ship left Miami that afternoon, the cabin was protected, the trust had been rewritten, and the inheritance they had counted on no longer existed in the form they expected. Did not see their messages until the following morning. There were 23 of them. Aaron's bank meeting took place on Friday, February 14 at 10:00 in the morning. He arrived at Tennessee Valley Commercial Bank carrying a leather folder and a printed repayment schedule. Melissa and David came with him. So did the restaurant landlord and 2 suppliers, who were owed a combined $48,000. Aaron had told all 3 men the financing was complete. He planned to leave the bank with $126,000. Brian Kell entered the conference room with the bank's compliance officer. He did not bring loan documents. He brought a denial letter. Aaron stood. "Where are the closing papers?" Brian placed the letter on the table. "The application has been declined." Aaron stared at him. "That is impossible. We were approved. You received conditional approval based on collateral documents that were not valid." Melissa opened her purse and pulled out a copy of the old trust. "I signed as co-trustee." "You no longer hold that position," Brian said. "That happened after I signed. The trust required Franklin Webb's approval even before your removal." Melissa's face tightened. "My father agreed verbally." Brian opened the file. "He gave us a sworn-written statement, saying the opposite. The landlord shifted in his chair. You told me the cabin was yours to use, he said to Aaron. It belongs to the family. No, Brian said. It belongs to a trust. And the trust rejected the pledge. One supplier pushed Aaron's repayment schedule back across the table. You asked us to delay collection because this money was guaranteed. Aaron looked toward Melissa, she whispered. Dad is upset. We can fix this. The compliance officer spoke for the first time. The file is closed. The bank will not accept another application using that property. Aaron's confidence disappeared. Without the loan, he had no money for the overdue suppliers, no funds for rent, and no way to cover the next payroll. The landlord stood. I need the January balance by Monday, or I begin default proceedings. The suppliers followed him out. Aaron remained at the table with the repayment schedule he had printed for money that no longer existed. At 10:18, Melissa called me. I was sitting near the window in my cardiologist recovery clinic, finishing my first follow-up appointment. Carla had driven me there. My heart rhythm was steady, and the incision was healing well. I let the call go to voicemail. She called again. Then Aaron called. His message lasted 19 seconds. Dad, the bank embarrassed me in front of everyone. Call Brian and tell him you changed your mind. I need this fixed today. I did not call Brian. Instead, I signed my discharge instructions, scheduled cardiac rehabilitation for Monday, and paid Carla for the final day of care. At the bank, my family was learning that plans built on another person's property could collapse in one quiet sentence. Application declined. Melissa arrived at my house that evening at 6:12. Aaron came with her. I had been home from the clinic for less than an hour. Carla had left dinner in the refrigerator, and my discharge papers were still on the kitchen table. Melissa knocked, even though she once had a key. Helen had required her to return it. I opened the door but did not invite them inside. Melissa looked at the bandage near my collarbone. How are you feeling? The surgery went well. We called the hospital. After the cruise ship reached Nassau, her face tightened. We had limited service. You sent 14 photographs. Aaron stepped forward. Dad, this is not about the cruise anymore. The restaurant could close. The restaurant was already failing before the cruise. I can save it with that loan. You cannot save it with my cabin. It is family property. It is trust property. Melissa folded her arms. You changed everything while we were gone. I corrected everything while you were gone. You removed me as trustee without discussing it. You signed a collateral agreement without discussing it. I believed it was best for the family. You believed I would sign while recovering from surgery. Aaron shook his head. That email was taken out of context. You wrote, "Don't let Dad overthink it." He looked away. Melissa's voice softened. Think about your grandchildren. If Aaron loses the restaurant, Lucas and Evan will suffer. Their education trusts are protected. She stared at me. What education trusts? The revised trust directs 80% of the remaining estate to Sophie, Lucas, and Evan. Aaron's face changed. And what do we get? 10% each after your debts to me are deducted. Melissa stepped back as if I had raised my voice. You punished us because we took one vacation. No, I kept my voice calm. You used $9,200 from an account meant for the grandchildren. You left 6 hours before my heart surgery. You expected me to hire care while you traveled with my money. Then you offered my cabin for a $126,000 business loan and planned to put the papers in front of me before discharge. We were desperate, Aaron said. Desperation explains bad judgment. It does not create ownership. Melissa's eyes filled. Mom would hate what you're doing to this family. That was the line she had saved for last. I took a slow breath. Your mother loved that cabin. She would have asked why you risked it without my consent. Melissa wiped her cheek. So there is nothing we can say. You can repay what you owe. You can rebuild trust. You cannot reverse the amendment by making me feel guilty. Aaron looked past me into the house. You're choosing documents over your children. No, I rewrote one document because my children had already chosen what mattered to them. I handed Melissa an envelope containing the formal accounting request. You Have 26 days left to provide every trust record and communication with the bank. She did not take it at first. Then she did. I stepped back into the house. My doctor told me to avoid stress, I said. This conversation is finished. I closed the door gently and locked it. My recovery took 6 quiet weeks. Aaron closed Copper and Ash in March. He sold the equipment, settled what he could, and took a management job at another restaurant. Melissa completed the trust accounting and repaid the $9,200 travel money over 8 months. We did not become close again overnight. Trust returned slowly, through ordinary things. Aaron started calling before asking for anything. Melissa came to 2 cardiac rehabilitation appointments and never mentioned the trust. I noticed the difference, but I did not rush to reward it. The cabin stayed exactly where it was. That spring, I took Sophie, Lucas, and Evan there for a weekend. We cooked breakfast, walked beside the lake, and talked about their grandmother. None of them knew how close the property had come to securing a debt that was not theirs. I had not rewritten the trust to hurt my children. I had rewritten it because love without boundaries becomes permission, and help without respect becomes expectation. My surgery taught me something simple. The people who count on your money should also be willing to count the hours beside you when you are afraid. If your family has ever expected your sacrifice while treating your needs as optional, like this video, share your story below and subscribe. Protecting your future is not revenge. Sometimes it is the first honest act of self-respect.